A study on retirement protection in Hong Kong lists 6 proposals. A last-ditch government attempt to win support for its Northeast New Territories development plan. And the head of Beijing's Taiwan Affairs Office on a visit to Taiwan.
Good evening. Results of a study on retirement protection conducted by Professor Nelson Chow from the University of Hong Kong will be submitted to the government this weekend. The study will list 6 options, that is, the study report will list 6 options to provide retirement protection for Hong Kong residents. But Chow recommends those who have $10 million or more in assets and retired civil servants with high-value pensions should not be covered by the protection scheme. Rani Samtani reports.
What should we do for retirement protection? After spending a year researching the issue, Professor Nelson Chow from the University of Hong Kong said 80% of the public want a universal retirement protection scheme.
I think the time is right for us to consider a comprehensive scheme because now the government is spending more than $20 billion on different kinds of social security measures for the elderly. And also, our MPF has been running for over, now it's 15 years. So at least we have a basis to move forward.
Chow's report studied 6 retirement scheme proposals. 3 of them suggest that once you reach the age of 65, you should receive a sum of money. 2 of the options propose ways to improve the existing 3-pronged approach, consisting of social welfare, personal savings, and the MPF scheme. And 1 proposal looks at modifying the existing MPF scheme. The Alliance for Universal Pensions submitted a proposal to the government suggesting that Hong Kong residents over the age of 65 should receive $3,000 a month. It says this can then replace part of the comprehensive Social Security assistance expenditure and the old age allowance. As to where the money should come from, the group recommends a combination of 3 sources. From the government, a lump sum of $50 billion in seed money. Employers and employees would each contribute 2.5% of the individual's monthly salary, and an increase in profits tax for large enterprises. But would it be fair for both the rich and poor to receive the same treatment? Chow suggests that those who have $10 million or more in assets, as well as retired civil servants with high-value pensions, should be excluded from the protection scheme. Chow's report is based on government data and provides a detailed analysis of each proposal. The report will also address the issue of elderly poverty and will compare retirement schemes implemented in different countries. The results of the report will be submitted to the Commission on Poverty for further discussion. Secretary for Labor and Welfare Matthew Zhang said the government will carefully analyze the report, but he wouldn't comment if the full report will be made public. Rani Samtani, TVB News.
Development Secretary Paul Chan is in Fanling tonight in a last-ditch attempt to get support for the government's Northeast New Territories development plan. And as expected, his entourage was met with protesters who are complaining that the government is ignoring their woes. Protesters shouted from behind police barricades outside the Tsinghua Estate Community Center this evening. Apart from Chan and his team, the directors of the Planning and Lands departments are also present. The development chief has invited both supporters, such as the Shung Shui Rural Committee, and opponents of the project to the meeting. But some opposing residents insist they will reject all development plans in the area. The government insists it will not postpone a funding request for the controversial Northeast New Territories development project. But as Evelina Lung reports, it's still not clear yet if the request would be put to a vote at LegCo on Friday.
The Finance Committee will meet again on Friday to discuss the funding requests for initial works of the Northeast New Territories development plan. Today, the Chief Secretary for Administration once again stressed the government is pushing ahead with the project. Carrie Lam called on the lawmakers to be responsible and vote on the funding request soon, saying delays in other funding requests are affecting people's livelihoods.
For example, public housing tenants are supposed to receive this 1 month rent waiver as a result of the budget relief measures. And over 1 million of Social Security recipients are supposed to receive an extra month of payment in the OH allowance, in the OH living allowance, and a disability allowance. But all these aspirations and hopes will be dashed if the various proposals now before the Finance Committee could not be approved in time.
Some legislators who are against the funding request want the development chief to meet individually with affected residents before Friday.
We found out that there will be great differences between Mr. Paul Chan and the group representatives that how to develop the Northeast.
He spoke out against today's meeting in which both supporters and opponents of the plan are present, saying it would only result in further bickering. And lawmakers are still at odds over whether Ng Leung Sing should continue chairing the committee.
The Labour Party will propose a non-confidence motion against the chairman of the Finance Committee. He is not dealing with the matter in a fair manner.
But pro-establishment lawmakers disagree. Tam Yu-jung of the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong said Ng had already allowed sufficient time for all legislators to speak.
The Finance Committee Chairman Ng Leung Sing says this Friday's meeting will last for around 6 hours, and he is confident that the proposal can be put to a vote that day. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
For the first time, the head of Beijing's Taiwan Affairs Office has visited the island in an attempt to forge better cross-strait ties. Zhang Jijun held talks this afternoon with Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Chief, Wang Yuqi. The director of the State Council's Taiwan Affairs Office is on the island for a 4-day visit. Zhang expressed hope both sides could further enhance mutual trust and step up communication. Outside the venue where the meeting was held, a group of anti-mainland protesters staged a rally demanding greater transparency in dealings between Beijing and Taipei.
New American and European sanctions aimed at Russia may be delayed after the Russian parliament canceled a resolution allowing the use of its military in Ukraine. That came at the request of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Meanwhile, the ceasefire in eastern Ukraine has been broken by sporadic clashes. Alan Buknia reports.
The shaky ceasefire could be thrown into peril after a Ukrainian military helicopter was shot down in separatist-held Sloviansk, killing 9 servicemen. The attack came just a day after the pro-Russian rebels vowed to respect a ceasefire. But a rebel spokesman in neighboring Luhansk insisted they have canceled all military operations and accused government troops of breaking the ceasefire. In Kiev, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko said it was the separatists violating the truce and instructed Ukrainian soldiers to fire back without hesitation if attacked. Russian President Vladimir Putin appealed for calm. In Austria, on an official visit, Putin said the talks during the ceasefire must be substantive and include guarantees for the rights of the Russian-speaking minority. Putin also said he had instructed his parliament to revoke a resolution authorizing him to use the Russian military in Ukraine, something it's now done. The move was welcomed by the United States and European Union, who are set to meet later this week to discuss further sanctions against Russia if it doesn't do more to defuse tensions in Ukraine.
We stand ready to assist the peace plan just launched, and we urge all parties to seize this opportunity to de-escalate the crisis and end the violence of this developing tragedy.
But not all are convinced of Russia's sincerity. Some NATO foreign ministers meeting in Belgium expressed skepticism.
But while there have been welcome words from Russia about that, we've not seen yet the actions to go with that, including, tragically, the shooting down of a Ukrainian helicopter yesterday.
NATO has accused Russia of supporting the rebellion in eastern Ukraine with troops and weapons, something Moscow denies. Alan Buknia, TVB News.
And to the latest in the fighting in Iraq, the Pentagon says nearly half of the roughly 300 American advisors and special operations personnel due to be deployed in the war-torn country are already in Baghdad. And in a boost to the embattled Shiite-led government, the Iraqi military said yesterday it had regained full control over the nation's largest oil refinery in Beijing. But there are also reports Sunni militants were regrouping for another push to try to capture the facility. Meantime, top Kurdish leader Masoud Barzani said the Sunni insurgency has now created a new reality and a new Iraq. That signaled the difficulty in efforts to promote unity among various factions. On the humanitarian front, the United Nations said more than 1,000 people have been killed in Iraq so far this month. That's the highest monthly death toll since the withdrawal of U.S. troops in December 2011.
Federal investigators in the United States are out with their final report about the Asiana Airlines plane crash in San Francisco last July. As it turns out, mismanagement by the pilots was blamed for the disaster that left 3 people dead and 200 injured. An official report by the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board blamed 3 veteran pilots for the crash of Asiana Flight 214. In fact, the pilots were found to have made 30 different errors while trying to land the Boeing 777 with 307 people on board.
We had a lot of holes lined up this time. We had a pilot who was new in this airplane. We had an instructor who was new as an instructor. We had fatigue. We had issues regarding understanding the automation.
But the biggest pilot error of all, relying on automated systems when it was obvious the plane was flying too low. So low, it clipped the seawall and burst into flames.
In this instance, the flight crew over-relied on automated systems that they did not fully understand. As a result, they flew the aircraft too low and too slow and collided with the seawall at the end of the runway.
Part of the blame also went to San Francisco firefighters for a lack of training.
In the chaos of the crash site, seconds counted. Nevertheless, something happened that never should have. ARFF vehicles rolled over one of the crash victims outside of the burning airplane.
Fire crews accidentally killed a female Chinese passenger who was ejected from the plane but was still alive until she was run over by 2 fire trucks. In the end, this is the biggest lesson learned from the crash.
Automation has unquestionably made aviation safer and more efficient, but the more complex automation becomes, the more challenging it is to ensure that the pilots adequately understand it.
The aviation industry must take heed. Even though automated controls are designed to improve safety, the NTSB insists they're a breeding ground for pilot error. And still ahead in our newscast, efforts to rally support for a march over judicial independence in the SAR, a brace to help people with bone fractures, and Uruguay beat Italy to advance in the World Cup.
We've got so much smart technology. We've got our mobile phones, we've got GPS, we can find anything anywhere in the world. We've actually lost a plane.
It's just not acceptable for an aircraft full of passengers to vanish.
Tonight, Flight 370, The Missing Links, at 9:30 on Pearl.
Why this watch? This watch has witnessed the epic, the world's most famous fortnight, and a century of traditions unchanged. It's heard the hush of the crowd, the whip of the maestro, on the lawn of the court's center stage. It doesn't just tell time, it tells history.
Direct Asia, best price guaranteed on car insurance. That's a wrap. DirectAsia.com, best price guaranteed on car insurance. Easy.
等運到，點解唔行出第一步？食二極，自在啲，投入每個場合。Get fresh, get close，2到極，
揭開罐蓋，有機會贏。